Marfoogle TV live in 3, 2, 1. All right, what is going on, guys? It is Adam, a.k.a. Marf, and this is Marfoogle TV. First of all, we have Colombian president claims to have escaped an assassination attempt. Again, now the Colombian president is saying that somebody just tried to take him out. Why this matters is Colombia, Venezuela, Cuba, of course, Iran. All of these countries are in an interconnected circle, and a lot of things are happening right now. In my belief, the U.S. is actually striking before they struck. I believe they had a plan to strike the U.S. all together, and it wasn't a simple plan. It's not, a typical Red Dawn movie. It's more of a create chaos, division, and essentially screw us up in any way possible before some sort of massive event. I believe that our intelligence saw that coming a million miles away, and they went for the root of it. It was more complicated because, of course, Venezuela and all of the oil, everything had something to do with it. Cuba was probably going to be used as a foreground for an attack. That's my opinion. Again, I know it might sound crazy. But now the Colombian president, who originally just a couple months ago wasn't any part of it, now he's getting attempts on his life. Well, obviously something is going on here, and it's a little bit more than just threats. Colombian President Gustavo Petro said Tuesday that he had escaped an assassination attempt just hours earlier after months of warnings about an alleged plot by the traffickers to target him. On Monday night, Petro's helicopter was unable to land at his destination on the Caribbean coast because of fears of unspecified people, quote, "we're going to basically take the shot at it." It says, "We are headed out to open sea for 4 hours, and I arrived somewhere we weren't supposed to go, escaping from being taken out," Petro said in a cabinet meeting that was broadcast live. Petro's claim amid a surge in violence months ahead of the presidential selection process in a country marred by decades of conflict between guerrilla and other armed groups. So this is something massive is obviously going on publicly. We've got an armada and even a second carrier headed to Iran, but there's even more happening behind closed doors. We have a lot to talk about tonight, including Elon. We, of course, have Russia. I'm going to be talking about Mr. Jeffrey Epstein. Man, if you haven't seen the interview of him, that is absolutely nuts. We'll talk about it all tonight on Marfoogle TV. We'll be right back right after this. Nothing in this show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. All right, what is going on? Let's get right back into the news, and let's bring in my co-host/internet brother, Dex James. What is going on, and how are you doing today?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I'm doing just fine.
So there was a video that was just released by Iran. Do you want to talk about what essentially this had in it, and why everybody's paying attention to it?
Yeah, so they released a propaganda video depicting the regime depicting the destruction of the Armada stationed in the Middle East. So the footage portrays a coordinated assault on the U.S. carrier strike group deployed in the region, featuring missiles, submarines, patrol vessels, and a fleet of jet-powered Shahed drones. The same unmanned aircraft Russia has been deploying throughout Ukraine. So the unsettling propaganda generated using AI displays the USS Abraham Lincoln aircraft carrier being hit by a torpedo and sailors racing across the flight deck as missiles bombard the formidable warship. The video concludes with Iranian forces celebrating victoriously while defeated American troops are led onto a vessel with their hands placed on their heads. So Typical Iranian style propaganda. But it's
A lot
certainly,
better quality.
yeah, AI is helping them out quite a bit, right?
Yeah, if you remember, Dex, do you remember the video that they did with after Soleimani was taken out just a couple of years ago? It was like bad CGI animated film.
Yeah, it was horrible.
Yeah, it was a really, really bad. So I don't, and it'd be really funny if we found out like Grok or Chat, one of these like open apps did this or something, but it's probably their own state-owned AI something, or Russia or China AI program or something. But the video, when you watch it, we're going to see more and more of this. As far as AI, the scariest part to me is when they have videos like this. There was a movie called The Mountain, I believe. The Mountain. It was with Steve Carell and others, and they were basically playing 4 of the richest men in the world. They were kind of a parody of like Mr. Gates, Zuckerberg, Elon. And it's a movie about essentially they're up at this mountain resort or getaway of like the least rich guy who's like the joke to them because he's only in the multi-millions or the hundreds of millions where they're in the billions. And essentially all chaos starts unfolding in the world because the Zuckerberg of all of them, it was like a Zuckerberg-Elon mix, releases an AI tool that can release videos that are so realistic that countries are releasing videos like this, but people are believing it. So say if you have 2, warring tribes in Africa, you release a video of, say, 3 guys going in and hurting a bunch of females or something. Well, then that village sees it and says, oh my gosh, how could they do that? Not knowing it's AI because it's indistinguishable from real life. Luckily, this was obviously propaganda, right? Something like this, we're going to have to start questioning even the real footage of things. Obviously, everybody already does. Everybody already says, like, is this AI? Is this AI? Everybody's asking Grok, is this true? So much so that's literally one of the leading commercials that Elon picked is is this true meme? Because that's literally what people have to ask now for almost everything. As far as this envisionment, right, we want to laugh it off and say it's Iran, but Iran now does have an advantage in certain areas, like those drones. Our own Air Force said that we no longer have air superiority because of drones like this. That was, again, something that our own Air Force is saying, that they're saying, hey, we don't have superiority as in like we just completely crush, when there are, of course, thousands of drones and, of course, mass-produced $10,000 drones that can essentially, basically outnumber to the point where our defense systems are really good, but they can only probably take out 15 per minute. And when there's 1,000 heading at you, one of them is going to hit its mark. So that's what a lot of military families are really nervous about with these armadas heading to Iran, is because we have a carrier and an armada system there. We have the entire country surrounded. We showed you last night. But is that enough? Well, we're going to talk about that tonight. There is now a question of a second carrier heading in. We'll talk about that here in just a second. And then we have Iran preparing for possible U.S. strike. Dex, obviously, we've talked a lot about almost every which way you could tell there's signs that there's about to be something that's going down.
Yeah, they're preparing for a strike, according to more satellite images that are coming in. This one particularly is the Isfahan nuclear complex. Center and the southern entrances of the nuclear facility have been covered with earth. And the northmost tunnel entrance, which features additional passive defense measures, has also been backfilled with soil, according to the satellite images. So backfilling the tunnel entrances would help dampen any potential airstrike. It would also make ground access and special forces raids to seize or destroy any highly enriched uranium that may be housed inside. It'll make it more difficult for them to be able to get through that. So preparations like these were last observed in the days before the Operation Midnight Hammer struck the facilities there in Fort Isle and Nance, as well as this one in Isfahan. So we'll see if this is, obviously this is their preparation because they're expecting it. The real question is, are we going to strike them?
And just a reminder, Midnight Hammer was where we, of course, in the middle of our country, everybody started seeing these stealth bombers up ahead, and we're like, oh. And they're like, oh, don't worry, it's just a drill. Well, 2 of them did a left turny, and boom, went right to Iran, and took out their supposed nuclear sites. So something like this, you have all of the signs that they are preparing for a strike. You even have them telling the Marine community to stay away from Iran mainland right now, stay away from their territorial waters, stay basically as far away from Iran as possible. We even saw that they told U.S. citizens and European citizens and every kind of citizens, not only did they say, hey, don't travel there, they actually gave them routes on how to get out through the Armenian border and the Turkey border and all these different borders that border Iran. They were basically like, you need to get out any way possible. Here's directions on how. So that was just a few days ago. So there's a lot of signs that this is about to pop off. Is this the end of the world? No, but this is potentially the start of a massive war. Now, not everything is going to be like, oh, they took out Maduro and nobody acted on it. Iran is a different story. Iran is dug in. Iran is, obviously really close partners with Russia. Russia and Iran have been getting absolutely cozy. So this is going to be something to really watch. And like I've been saying for the last couple of weeks, we could wake up any morning and see that the Ayatollah has fled to Russia or that the Ayatollah has been taken out. And my guess, if the Ayatollah is ever taken out, I bet it would be something where we wouldn't expect it. Like he goes into a hotel room, not hit by a missile, but hit by like a pre-placed explosive that's been there for 4 months, sort of like a previous hit that they took out somebody in. Something where everybody's like, whoa, what the hell happened? How did it happen? That's what I think. Or if we do go in with strikes, it very well could look like shock and awe. And if you're old enough to remember shock and awe, it was pretty nuts. Different story, same sort of playbook here. We know that 112 C-17 Globemasters have headed over to the Middle East into Europe. This is a massive, massive movement right now. Thank you. One Ed Cooksey says, what exactly is the official AI reasons why we're about to fight Iran? The official AI reasons why we're about to fight Iran? Again, I don't know what the AI reasons are, but the AI video that they put out is just basically showing that they totally cream us and that our U.S. soldiers, our super soldiers that fire 300 bullets per second, that they're going to be putting their hands up and going, we surrender. That's their view of what's going to happen. But again, I think that's a little bit different from the reality. As far as AI reasons, I don't know. But as far as reasons, we're about to fight Iran because we are fighting almost every adversary part of what was happening over the last 4 years. And that's my angle. I'm sticking to it. As far as what was going on through our border, that was connected to Iran, that was connected to Russia, that was connected to North Korea, that was connected to Venezuela, Cuba, Colombia, Honduras, the entire thing. And all of the countries that I was talking about that this was going to go down, it's all happening. Only this was the surprise, that the U.S. and that Donald pulled the trigger first, took out Maduro, embargoed Cuba, is now, clandestine services, whether it be us or Israel, they went in there and they caused massive riots. Not only that, they backed up the riots. So if they did anything to them, they would have their red line to be able to do something. And if you know Iran doesn't like protest too much. They don't like any kind of dissent. So this was set up from beginning to end to take out a bunch of people. I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing North Korea in the targets. Before we move on, make sure to go check out EMP Shield. This, in all of this mess, if somebody does try to hit us back, most believe that they would try to knock down power first. Power and communications. We know, and we followed all of the stories talking about our satellites under threat. Of course, Russia and China following our satellites, tracking them, trying to figure out all of our most important satellites. Now, if you want to protect your own stuff and your own cars, your own trucks, motorcycles, boats, ham radios, Starlink, satellite systems, everything that you want to keep running, you want to have an EMP Shield on. Go over and check it out, marfooglenews.com/EMP. This is the same way that DHS, Department of Homeland Security, DOW, the DEMSO team helping protect the Texas grid, this is the same tech and same company that is helping protect it. So if you want the same protection for yourself, they started out only selling to regular civilians. We actually were selling with them and affiliating with them before they got all of those crazy contracts. So make sure to go check it out. It is still a very, very family-oriented company, and it is also handmade, everything down to the screws in America. MarfugleNews.com/EMP. Make sure to use the code MARF to get $50 off per device and to help our channel out at the same time. And then we have Looming force. Trump warns that he'll send another armada to pressure Ayatollah into accepting nuclear deal as Netanyahu heads to Washington. Dex, it's kind of funny that we just talked about last night that Netanyahu is heading, to the White House, this closed door meeting, and then all of a sudden we've got a potential whole other armada headed there. The timing is pretty impeccable.
Yeah, it certainly is. I mean, he's set to meet with him Wednesday, I believe, or actually any time now, because it may have been today that he was flying in. They pushed the meeting up, so that I don't know if that happened today, tonight, or if it's first thing tomorrow. But yeah, but he's also hinting at that. If he needs to bring another fleet in, he will, and depending on how the negotiations go. He goes, we have an armada that is heading there and another one might be going, he said. That was his quote. Either we'll make a deal or we'll have to do something very tough like last time, he said. So definitely the types of rhetoric you'd expect when you walk into negotiations, but at the same time, this was the same. They were willing to walk away from the negotiations. America was not going to have them. They were willing to say, you know what, this is dumb. We're just going to go get ready for conflict, because they didn't think Iran was going to even be willing to negotiate anything meaningful. But of course, Iran said, hey, we'll talk nukes, but nothing else. And when they put ballistic missiles on the table, they said, no, we're out. And that's why Netanyahu is here, is to say, no, you got to put ballistic missiles back on the table and force it.
And totally different angle here and totally different story. But I can imagine in their eyes, it would be like, if the countrywide, the U.S. said, hey, you have to disarm yourself and turn in your weapons. To them, ballistic missiles, not even just not the nuclear program, but the ballistic missiles within range of Israel, they are constantly firing back and forth at each other. So for them, I could see their angle being like, hey, you're leaving us defenseless, then we can't hit them. I'm sure, now I don't know if the ballistic missile, if that's only the longer range stuff, like I wonder if they would still allow them to have missiles or smaller missiles that could still hit Israel, but not ballistic missiles that can go past Israel. Like, is that the thing, or?
No, ballistic means they're going, they're ICBMs. They're going high, and they go high, they go long, so they can hit Israel. They can hit lots of different locations. But look, the real thing, the way I look at it, Iran's nuclear program got hit hard. It's going to take them more than a few years to get anything going again. I mean, they're working on it.
If we truly got everything.
Yeah, well, okay. But I'm going to go ahead and make that assumption in what I'm saying here, in my opinion, is that we got enough that would knock them back. Okay. So if you're negotiating with Trump, all you have to think about is, well, we'll say we're not going to worry about nukes, because all I got to do is wait 3 years, or in the next 3 years, do everything in secrecy underground, and they won't know what we're doing, which is what they've always done. And there'll be a new president in 3 years from now, and we won't have to worry about it, because nobody's going to be as hard as he is, and everybody else we've been able to just do whatever we want to do. So I think that's why they're saying, no, we're not going to give up ICBMs, because that's the real thing they need. And the nuke stuff, they're like, yeah, we'll tell you we're going to give it up, but we'll do it underground. Nobody's going to know.
I just wonder, and I almost want to agree with you that this has knocked out their stuff, because otherwise I don't think that the president would move in. I don't think that any of his advisors would be okay moving in armadas close to Iran if they didn't truly do a really, really good job of knocking out a bunch of stuff in their strikes. And I'm sure they knocked out other stuff that they didn't talk about. As far as this goes, I just wonder though if they do have enough to where they are going in, we're looking at a regime change here. They're going to go in and regime change, I bet, within the next couple months. My big question is this going to stop whatever plan they had with Russia, China, Iran, North Korea, and everybody else? And under my assumption and under my opinion, I believe that they were planning a massive attack on the United States. and not like just sleeper cells all over in all multiple countries. I think that was just a small part of it. I think that they were going to go after our grid. They were going to hit most of our power plants. I think that they were going to hit our systems, cyber attacks. I think they were going to send us false missile alerts and false, earthquake alerts and all sorts of stuff to confuse the hell out of us. And then I think they were going to turn off the lights and see what happens. All the meanwhile, they're getting backed up by China because they're essentially helping China in their goal of taking Taiwan and taking a huge chunk of the ocean that will literally change the tides of the future. If China takes Taiwan in that part of the ocean and that through for all of that stuff that comes through the world, 30% of the world's products, then China will not just get to par with us in a couple years. They could surpass us. That's what our own Pentagon white papers say. That's why they cannot give up Taiwan. And they're going to do all of this without ever saying like, hey, Taiwan's its own state. All of this, too, is to prevent the civilians from panicking. I don't know if you guys saw the Epstein interview on Vlad TV. Holy moly, man. If that's a whole nother thing in itself. So that interview with Jeffrey, it was 15 hours of media training that was never supposed to be aired. In fact, Steve Bannon was the one that was interviewing it. I think it just aired on Vlad TV. It's a 2-hour excerpt out of that, and it's just insane. He talks about how the reason why EpiPen was going for all those scientists is because he was trying to explain the unexplainable. He was trying to get all these people together. He even bought property and put all of this together in Los Alamos, right by Area 51 and where the Manhattan Project was, all of these things. He literally went there because he knew after they canceled and all of those physics scientists, after they got laid off because all of the priorities changed in the United States, that those people would still be living there. So he snatched up all of these scientists to explain the unexplainable. We're talking about literal, explaining God, explaining life, explaining all of the questions that are explainable. But why? He says that he did this because they were essentially trying to get to a system that could predict the financial market. If they could use the same system to to answer questions that are unexplainable, they could also then essentially predict the future. They could also say, if we did this, this would happen. If you look at what is going on right now, look at all the people that have bought gold, all the countries that have bought gold right now. This almost looks like it's a purposeful setup. This World War III, where many and many, many, many of us on the lower scale will perish, This to them, this is just part of their growing cycle as far as, the rich get richer, the poor get poorer, but also taking care of problem B, wiping the scum of the earth off the planet. Man, watch that, and then watch the King's Vision, that other piece of craziness, because I'm telling you, there's a lot of stuff in there. And this was back in 2012 or quite a few years ago after he got out of jail the first time. Absolutely insane interview. If anybody else watched that and said to themselves, like, holy crap, they were coming up with systems. This guy was friends with the most prominent and powerful people in the world. Not only did they have their weirdo stuff on the island, but they were also coming up with the system to basically control the market, control the financial systems. That's why he was so popular. I'm starting to question like the whole backstory of what was even going on there. They could throw anyone under the bus they wanted to. And now in just the last few years this happens, since they've developed AI, it's starting to make me question like why he ended up getting taken out of the equation. It is pretty insane to hear him explain this stuff. And I also didn't know that he sounded like Woody Allen. Go listen to it for yourself. It was a very eye-opener. Never hearing his voice before, I literally thought he was like the big tough guy from Don't Look Up that's like the astronaut that goes and, F you and this and that. No, he sounds like Woody Allen. Just absolutely crazy. And he wore these big, thick glasses where his eyes were like half the size. It was just so weird to hear him talk. Either way, we also have, of course, the U.S. and mobile launchers for Patriot missiles at Qatar-based concern over Iran attack. So now you have these mobile launchers with mobile Patriot missiles, mind you, and they're setting up. Dex, why do you think this is happening right now?
I think the main thing is there's a decision going on to make them more mobile. They put the missiles into the truck launchers as the tensions now are rising up with Iran. The decisions to keep those Patriot missiles in the mobile trucks rather than making them semi-static launch stations, meaning they could rapidly deploy them to strike or be moved defensively in case of an Iranian attack. Now, obviously, Qatar is a location that we've got great alliance with, investments both ways between the two countries, and I'm sure we've got some security guarantees, which we've recently announced that we would help protect them. So especially after that, wasn't it Israel that struck a building in Qatar, I believe it was?
Yeah.
And out of the blue. So that all of that, they are right across the pond, so to speak, right across the small Gulf there from Iran. So they're going to be an easy target, a quick target for Iran, especially if they know, and they do know that we have U.S. military there. So they'll look at that as a target. And I think that it's important that we're able to protect and at least defend them, even if we're not going to be using their location as a strike zone to strike from.
And Ed Cooksey, great question there, and we'll get to that here in just a second. If you look, this is all the C-17. They say that this is at the airbase in Qatar. They actually, was it two different ones? Yeah. So this is before and after. You can obviously see this. They've loaded up on these C-17 Globemasters, which again, these aren't a weapons system. These are transport. So they sent 112 of these things. So there's a huge number of them there. But they went to Europe. They went to several locations. They have sent, I'm guessing, troops. They've sent tanks. They've sent all sorts of stuff over there. So this is getting on the crazy scale. And then
there's a lot in Cyprus too.
Yes, Cyprus. That was right. Wasn't there like 24 of them or something? Something nuts. And then one Ed Cooksey says, didn't mean AI, typo. It says, why are they hitting them now? Isn't Russia backing Iran now? Ed Cooksey, the one thing though is Russia was backing Maduro and Venezuela. That didn't really do much, did it? But like I said, I think that Iran's a little bit different, and Iran and Russia have been trading stuff back and forth. At one point, obviously, a lot of people questioned if they had nukes because of Russia, that Russia might even just given them one or given them the ability to do it faster or something. I don't know what the case is on that, but we know that the drone exchange between the two of them has been heavily used. Russia is using their Shaheds, and what's crazy is their Shaheds, or one of their drones, is so good that we reverse engineered it, and we're basically making their drones now, which is kind of nuts. We were behind the game on drones for quite a bit, according to the Pentagon. So yeah, and that was along the same timeline as that the Pentagon and the Air Force were saying that we are no longer, air superiority anymore. So pretty crazy. But yeah, why hitting them now? I think it's because there was a massive thing between Iran and Venezuela and Cuba, and all of these things were all connected. They were all connected to what was happening in our country. If you don't think it was an attack, imagine 10 million, just say 2 million soldiers coming into our country. I don't know what the D-Day numbers were, but they were in the hundreds of thousands, right? Think about 2 million soldiers coming into our country over 4 years, scattering across the country in places where no one can ask where they're from, no one can ask where, what country they're origin from. Imagine if they could just set up shop over time and even buy farmland buy property right across from our bases, set up literal bases here, and even set up digital cyber rings with cell phone tower jammers and things like this. We've seen evidence of all of this. Imagine that. And there's no machine guns on the beach shooting them off because they're already here. Over the past 4 years, people wanted to make it to the left versus the right and about this rights and wrong. Most people in the right mind understand that, if you're in a crappy country, you try to go to a good country. If you have a $15 minimum wage for an entire 10-hour day, required 10-hour day, and you're making $15 for that entire day, yeah, you're going to want to go somewhere else to make your money. But we're not talking about those people. We're talking about the people that were sent here on purpose, the people that were literally sent in that were part of groups of 20 and 40, 18 to 25 military-age males. And they all had a literal transcribed system of getting through the entire Mexico and through the Darien Gap and the whole system until they get into our country. And then when they get into the country, each one of these, there's a huge apparatus that was telling them how all to do this, as if this wasn't, just some random thing where people encouraged this from China. We're talking about just China. It was in Spanish and in Chinese. Those two languages, out of all of the countries that were coming in over those 4 years, China had a literal line where they were giving them instructions on how to do it. And people think that that's an accident. That's a country that is trying to overwhelm our system, to collapse our system at the same time as set up shop. I mean, it's just nuts. And when you look at Iran and Russia and all of these places, they have something that they gain from it. They're not doing this for free. When the dust settles, if they believe that China will be up at the top one day, which our own war games are showing that not only are they going to be at par with the U.S., but that our dollar's collapsing. And again, they're worried about our dollar collapsing, and they're looking at a country like China, where the global narrative now on all social medias is that they're so advanced, that they're doing so well. If communism's so bad, why are they have clean airports, and they have trains that go 400 miles an hour. They have drones. They have people walking around in exosuits while we're sitting here, going to buck rudders. Okay, yeah. It does look bad. And the thing is that's the narrative that's going out there. And the rest of the world is saying, okay, well, if they go to a new fight, look at what our countries have been doing over the last 10, 15, 20 years. They've been reducing our military. We have a reputation in the world. The world is looking at us, and they obviously look at the U.S. as the imperialist, the colonizers, the horrible bad guy. And in a lot of cases we were. But in this case, they're literally looking at a communist system and saying, oh, this is going to be great. The only thing that I could think of is that media and colleges and schooling over the last 15, 20 years has been convincing people that communism is good. I mean, what's crazy is that this is not a secret. You see our 20-year-olds out there saying, oh, communists are good. Communist is good. Oh, capitalism is bad. This is capitalist billionaires versus communist billionaires. It's not left versus right, because there's literal capitalists that are left and right behind this whole thing. And there's left and right. They don't even call themselves anything on the freaking communist billionaire side. So yeah, we're heading into World War III right now, and people are still questioning if it's going to happen or not. It's already happening. That's what we're looking at. CD Ratton says, good evening, FF. Finally got my 2-year pin. Well, FF here may mean something else, but finally got my 2-year pin. God bless all and us, and keep us strong and steadfast, God, in our fight with the evil one. We have got to stand together. It's the only way. Well, people are too focused on what the other side is doing. What I don't understand is in the last 5 years, everybody's on a side. It's not how we talked 20 years ago. Why were people so easy in just a matter of a few years able to be convinced that there's that side versus our side, when it's all of our side versus the top? But yeah, it's not even a side thing. It's the bottom versus the top. U.S. using mobile launchers, again, that obviously getting prepared. And then U.S. boards Venezuela-linked oil tanker in the Indian Ocean after pursuit from Caribbean. Dex, they followed this thing.
They certainly did. So U.S. military has boarded another Venezuela-linked tanker after tracking the ship from the Caribbean Sea as part of the oil quarantine meant to squeeze Caracas. So Venezuela has faced U.S. sanctions on its oil and accused from Washington, but they picked this one up in the Indian Ocean, of all places. So yeah, this is kind of interesting coming out of the European news there. The Aquila 2 was operating in defiance of the established quarantine and sanctions of the vessels in the Caribbean. It ran and we followed it. The U.S. did not say whether the tanker was directly linked to Venezuela. However, Samir Mandi, the co-founder of Tanker Trackers, said the Aquila 2 was one of at least 16 tankers that left Venezuelan coast last month, shortly after the capture of Maduro. So yeah, it's one they were probably trying to pick up, more than likely heading back to like Iran or something.
Yeah, and I mean, gosh, they followed that thing for a long time. And then Taiwan rejects possibility of transferring 40% of the island's semiconductor capacity to the U.S. Of course, production on Taiwan expected to increase in lockstep with increases in U.S.-based production. Dex, the simple translation, and this is how I'm taking it, is they're not gonna basically just uproot and put it somewhere else. They're saying, hey, you guys can build up too. We're gonna build up the same. But this isn't like we're taking Taiwan's super semiconductor chips and putting them here. They're going to be doing it too, and that's not what everybody wants.
Right. I mean, look, this comes after U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick said that concentrating a large portion of the global semiconductor production close to China represents a strategic vulnerability. He said, also indicating that the goal of the U.S. government is to increase the country's share of the market of leading-edge semiconductor manufacturing to 40% in 3 years. So he basically wants a larger percentage of that to be here. So TSMC came out, or specifically the Taiwan government came out and said, hey, we don't think you should have 40% of our work, but you can grow as much as you want so long as we can grow as much as we want. And I think what they're trying to do is not lose their business, even though they are basically, as everyone has been rightfully calling out for the last 10 years, the most vulnerable, because they're not only right next door to China, but they're also in contested land that China wants. And, I think we've all said it. If China took Taiwan now, that we would probably be set back at least 5 years in technological chip advancements, just because of the time it takes. It's like a year to develop a chip here, or no, 3 years to develop a chip here in America, and then another year to get it into fabrication in Taiwan. So yeah, it's a long process. So to move all that would be a big deal.
This is really scary. So the extra power that they are producing with their solar panels is enough to power the United States. Just so you know, the extra that they could sell, like if you are a homeowner and you buy solar and you don't use all of the energy it produces, you can actually sell back those energy units back to the energy company. They'll buy it back from you, right? As far as China, think about it like this. They're crazy mountainous regions of solar panels that they're putting in these areas. And we've seen videos and pictures of these places. It looks like a different planet. It looks like some sort of futuristic, Cybertron. That is their solar panels. I guarantee you that, and this is my opinion, that the hoarding of gold, the hoarding of wheat, the hoarding of corn, the hoarding of foods of all different kinds, all of that, the hoarding of natural gases, that all of that is preparing for when they go to war with Taiwan. We know this, right? Well, when are you going to wait? As far as if they take Taiwan, and if they did truly control it right now, if they took Taiwan today, we would be screwed. They have admitted that we would be set back years, and essentially China would control or put down this huge place that is basically making chips for the rest of the world. And we can't just make these places overnight. When would you attack? If you were China and you know that the U.S. is not only making a system that would possibly even rule out mutually assured destruction, which keeps everybody at bay, and would basically put everybody to shame, if they make a system like the Golden Dome that could knock everything out of the sky, no matter where it is in the United States, by 2028, you would think they would probably want to do something before then. Well, if in 3-4 years we can actually create enough and get self-reliant on semiconductor chips, which some say it's going to take longer than that even, when would you actually act? Would you wait until we're self-sufficient on that? If they wanted to take us out of that top spot and they wanted to control the world, and I mean the world, Would they wait until 2030 to take Taiwan? Or would they try to do it ASAP and try to do it while they can either shut down that plant and have a hoarded stockpile of them in their country, they have their own production? Or would they, wait until 2030 when we have all of these defensive systems, when we have an answer for every one of their things, when their answers that we've basically found out about, like them being able to track our stealth ships, them being able to find our ships in the sea, them being able to, go underwater and have these huge networks of detectors, having an open door into our system from solar winds, having cyber systems and having all of these things in place, and having soldiers physically in our country that came in my opinion, that they came in over the last 4 years and they went in groups along with all of the people that just wanted a better life. Those people, and then went to places, none of these guys, and this is the thing, they didn't go to the regular facilities that everybody else went to. They went to their own. Where did they go? I don't know, but I'm taking a guess, probably maybe one of those properties right next to the bases, and properties that is owned by China, huge sprawling properties where they could easily be. Either that, or they went into Canada where they have a treaty. If they have a property that China thinks is important enough, they could literally go in there and not even the local police could question them about it with their new strategy over the last couple years. Now they have a new strategic partnership that's even crazier. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. What do you think is going on? And then Delta Wildman says, united we stand, divided we fall. And I think that that's going to become more apparent, absolutely going to be the truest statement here. And I think that people are going to slowly realize, and too slow for all of our good, everybody's going to realize after the fact what the hell happened. 95% of people are going to be stuck with no food, no water, and they're going to realize, holy crap, all of the stuff that the crazy people were talking about all these years just came true. CD Ratton says, my mom used to say, if you don't stand for something, you will fall for anything. That's a perfect statement as well, CD Ratton. And it's absolutely true. Have you heard of the Committee of 300? I believe we've talked about the Committee of 300. Dex, I'm not remembering what the Committee of 300 is. What is that? Is that like the Trilateral Commission type of thing?
I'd have to look it up, but I recall talking about it, but I don't remember what it was. Yeah.
Is that from back in the 70s or? I don't know. And then Ed Cooksey again, thank you. So before we talk about Mars in and Mars out, I do want to remind you guys, make sure to go check out Jase. If you don't want to be relying on China when we go to war with them, or if you have an emergency happen near you where something like a Katrina or a North Carolina or a California event happens where you're cut off from the rest of the world. If something happens, a simple something, you could literally be in the grave over not having antibiotics. That's what Jase is about. They have a Jase case that has all of your most commonly prescribed antibiotics in it. Again, life-saving medications in a handy kit that goes right to your door. You can save, again, not only money by using marfooglenews.com/Jase and using the code MARF, but you also help our channel at the same time as getting yourself prepared. Go to marfooglenews.com/Jase, code MARF, and make sure to ask about their add-on list. They have albuterol and all sorts of other things that if you need, that you can get. All right, marfooglenews.com/Jase and code MARF. So this is a trip. There's today and tomorrow, there's going to be a bunch of articles about this. And let me just tell you, I wish Leah was here. I don't know if she is, but I've been talking about the moon. And you guys know I've been talking about the moon, right? About the YR4 that's potentially going to hit the moon, 4% chance. About the old YouTube video when YouTube all shut down and everybody thought that I won't even say thought. People said there was a military gentleman that was busting a story wide open. This isn't my story. It was the whole internet story. Everybody said that this thing was going viral on YouTube. Even Drama Alert covered it. That this guy was saying that, hey, this, something big is coming, and in a few years, they're not worried about an asteroid hitting Earth. They're worried about it hitting the moon. And I've talked about how they've all gone to Mars this. Well, meanwhile, the Mars thing has just not come to fruition. By 2030, we were supposed to have 1 million people on Mars. Well, now, Elon Musk is literally saying, oh, you know what? Out with Mars, in with the moon. A lot closer, right? Well, check this out. SpaceX just officially shifted its #1 priority to build a self-growing city on the moon. Not a base, not an outpost, a city. Here's why it makes sense. You can launch to the moon every 10 days versus every 26 months for Mars. 2-day trip versus 6 months. That means hundreds of iteration cycles before you could even attempt the same thing. They're giving the most simple, stupid reason why, like, oh yeah, this totally makes more sense. Well, no, duh. That's why everybody said, why don't you just go to the moon instead of going to Mars? They're talking about terraforming Mars and all of this. The moon, with the same technology, you could just have a bunker place there and have it set up there. I don't think that's what it is. They're telling us that. But again, my side crazy theory is, what if they're setting up, they're going to the moon, they're going to have to justify all of these things going back and forth on the moon. We might even start seeing stuff on the light side of the moon. What if they are actually setting up a defensive system for that asteroid that might be hitting the moon? If that city killer hits the moon, it could rain down comets on the Earth, whatever else. If it's bigger than they think, if they are lying to us, then who knows? What the guy said on YouTube years ago, what everybody made a big hubbub, and they said that YouTube shut down the entire global YouTube because they were trying to wipe it out, was that because if it got knocked off course, it would not only cause massive, massive cataclysms across the planet, that it would literally just screw everything up because it controls the waves. It could cause tsunamis. It could cause all of these crazy things. Well, again, that was what the video said years and years ago. Now they've talked about Wire 4 possibly hitting the moon. One thing they will never do is just straight up tell you that a cataclysm is coming, because as they saw from the Depression, as they saw from many other places, a run on the bank is the last thing that they want. And the one great thing that was explained in that Epstein video, he talks about fractionalized banking. And basically, if the bank, here's how the bank works. I give the bank $1. Well, the governing forces that are watching the bank says, hey, they gave you $1. Now you can loan out $9. Now you can loan out 10 because they gave you 1. And then that money is with 10 individuals and they don't even have anything on them. The bank is set up that where literally if everyone went and grabbed their money, they don't have it because it is all loaned out. They don't physically have all of our money if we go on a bank run. That is why every time a bank run happens anywhere in the planet, they close down the banks. They limit stuff. This is why preppers worry that if something bad happens here, that you want to have cash under your bed. You want to have gold. You want to have tangible things because your money might be useless. I mean, every sci-fi movie of the end has shown you that it's actually quite a realistic thing. If the dollar collapses or if something like that happens, everybody does a bank run, dollars will be useless. Nobody's going to want to deal with them. They're going to want something tangible they can actually use. Well, this whole thing with the moon, I don't know. It just gives me the vibes that they may be setting up a dart up there. They may be setting something like a defensive system up, and they could be telling us it's something completely different. I mean, overnight, they're going from Mars to the moon with no explanation. I don't know. It seemed like the moon was the goal the whole time. And the moon for the first time, of course. Dex, did you kind of get caught off guard by this? I mean, Elon for years has been talking about the Mars. I guess all he cares is about civilization moving on. Now he's going to the moon.
Well, yeah, no, I'm not caught off. I don't think it surprises me. I think if they do this, we might actually see SpaceX getting to the moon before NASA gets there with their the delays they keep having with Artemis. So they were supposed to launch, like a couple weeks ago, the first manned, crewed, I should say, orbit. And it was not the first ever because they say they did it back in the 60s, right? But they're supposed to have launched that, and it hasn't happened. It keeps getting delayed. So that's the SLS rocket, I guess, that NASA's using. There's been some problems with it. So, that's the first trip back, as they call it, or some of us would call it the first trip. It just depends on your perspective. They're not going to land. They're just going to go around it and come right back.
Okay, so this guy is on the same tip that I've talked about and everything that Elon has done, right? The Boring Company, SpaceX, Neuralink, and Grok, AI, all of this, right? That all of this, he puts it together, at least this first step. I haven't read the whole thing. One of the first steps will be building tunnel boring machines on the moon to excavate deep tunnels that provide pressurized living and working spaces for human colonists. This will begin with a fleet of Optimus robots operated from a space-based data center. Remember, that's what they're doing right now. They're talking. Elon is talking. Dex, you talked about it at this length, that it's cheaper. They can have unlimited energy from the sun with solar panels. All this. Landing on the lunar surface to construct a dedicated service hub for their own maintenance, repair, and recharging. From there, the operation will expand to include a refinery to process local raw materials and manufacturing facility to produce the boring machines, along with essential life support systems such as airlocks, oxygen generators, and air scrubbers, all aimed at creating a safe, habitable environment for human arrival. Over time, this will evolve into an autonomously maintained, self-expanding underground city. The deeper it is built, the better protected it will be from micrometeorite impacts. Moonquakes remain a significant risk, but deeper placement reduces this danger as well. Most human living and working spaces should be at least 100 meters underground to avoid extreme thermal swings from day to night. Now, say that he is actually doing this because he is trying to save Earth. What does he know that everybody else doesn't? What if he's like, hey, we can't make it to Mars by this year, by 2030, and they're literally like, screw it, back to the drawing board, we have to go to the moon. And all of the richest people, the people that can afford $400,000 ticket for, again, and have a memo saying, hey, you need to get this ticket. Even if you don't have enough money, you need to get it and get up there before a cataclysm that the government would never tell us about, because they won't ever have us do a run on the banks. They won't ever have society collapse because of that. And they'll wait until 3 days before and tell us, oh yeah, by the way, this thing's going to, smack into the earth, or this thing's going to smack into the moon. And we're trying to go up there and basically set it up to be in there when it happens on the other side of the moon underground. I don't know. Again, remember, if they hit the moon, if this YR4, it could then send meteor chunks and chunks of the moon falling down onto Earth all over the place and causing absolute havoc. I'm sure that the rich would love to be in some sort of bunker, deluxe, sweet bunker with a bunch of Optimus bots with, grape leaves feeding them. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. CD Ratton, thank you. Appreciate your support today. And I think Delta Wildman and Ed Cooksey are top supporters. To Ed Cooksey, thank you for being top fan tonight. Appreciate that. Thank your mods by going over to marfooglenews.com/friends. You can get there by going to marfooglenews.com, find a full bibliography of every single article, tweet, video, picture, document that we have shown you here today, and then just click the Friends tab. You'll go there, and then you'll find every single mod there. You'll have all of their links, their Amazon links, like Chance has got books over on Amazon. Go support him. He's, an author. Trinity, Wages, Ilea, RGL, Rip Curl, Lisa R. Hall, longest running mod, and of course, Jammer, Gem, CJ Blaze, and Bones. Make sure to go support. Thank you, JPass, CD Ratton, Delta Wildman, Mike, KKPO. KK3PO, I love that. Sandy Hopkins, Bobby Sue, Paul, Joplin, D. Griffin, Frank Walls, Deep Sky, and so many more. Thank you. And WISJN, can't forget about you. Dex, thank you for your service tonight. I appreciate you.
Much love. Great job, brother.
We will see you guys tomorrow. Be safe, be prepared, and Marf out. It is now time for the shoutro. It's not an outro. It's not a shout out. It's a shoutro.